I don't know a lot about fighting games, but I do know they have a problem. They want to hit the big boy numbers, but can't quite get there, except for that guy. That guy can do whatever he wants. I like to think I understand the frustration. If I was the dude that made Street Fighter, I would also be like, what do you mean 36 million copies? The entire industry has decided the solution is to just make the games easier. And fans, even if they don't like it, seem to agree.
On a scale of 1 to 10, I suck balls at fighting games, which is why when members of the FGC talk about these mechanics as necessary for new players, it can feel a little bit like,
I, as Lord of the Land, find these auto combos and modern controls tedious, but it's good for the peasant folk. Yes, look at how they bask in their mud like swine. Hey, dirty, stupid, dumb, idiot peasant folk here. This is dumb and I hate it. Auto combos and modern controls are a crutch to help make winning more accessible to the masses. But at that point, people don't like your game, they just like winning. The second they go on a losing streak, they're uninstalling.
Saw one guy today online who was like, man, I can't believe they allow auto combos in matchmaking. This is gonna ruin matchmaking. Auto combos in ranked are gonna ruin matchmaking. And I was like, motherfucker, if you're worried about auto combos in ranked, you got bigger fucking issues than the goddamn auto combos. If you're losing to auto combos, the problem is you, not the auto combos.
Now hang on, this guy is right, and that's why he's wrong. For the most part, I agree with him. Auto combos are a tool to help new players, and if you lose just because of auto combos, you suck. But do you know who really sucks at the game? New players. Noob on noob matches are supposed to be a safe haven where both players can just have fun learning the game. But now the monkey has a gun. What happens when a new player is ready to take that next step and learn more advanced combos? Now his buddy, who is just as new to the game as he is gonna cave his skull in with some sweet, sweet button mashing. The learning gap has suddenly become much wider. There's a hurdle there that wasn't there before, all of a sudden. Learning fighting games was hard before, but now you have to quit crack to do it.
in a world where Riot gets booed and hissed for strong-arming mechanics in League, it's weird to see the FGC go, ah yes, of course, the only possible solution.
And regardless of how the community feels, this is the direction the industry is heading in. And it's easy to see why. While all these changes are being made, sales have only increased. Although I would argue these beginner-friendly mechanics are not to thank, rather the expansion of social media. The fact is, outside of the fighting game genre, all other long-running series are also seeing these uptick in sales. All games are getting more exposure nowadays. Maybe it's because of social media, maybe it's because the games are easier now. I guess it's a matter of opinion. But Mother always said I'm never gonna attract a man if all I do is criticize. So before we continue, I'm gonna need a new topic. Come on! Come on!
This is from Lexo, and this one's relevant, which is why I kept it. I personally don't understand why people are saying fighting games need single-player content to be more popular. FPS, MOBAs, and Battle Royales have gotten away with being only multiplayer. I don't know why it's suddenly an issue with fighting games. This is an opinion. So, the thing here is this feels like a false equivalence, right? Like, when it comes to fighting games, it's different from MOBAs or team games or, like, even shooters. It's not 1v1. It's like 1v1v1v1v1v1. I was gonna say, somebody else made a point, maybe it was a different one, that said, well, you know, it's all about blaming your team for feeding when you're playing a team game, so it makes it more palatable. In fighting games, people are either going to stick to it or they're not if it's a 1v1 game, so you need the story mode to keep people interested. But I don't even think it goes that deep. So many people want to engage with a game without having to play against other people.
I can work with this.
Firstly, none of the other games mentioned have single-player content. Which one has a story mode? Overwatch 2? Secondly, let's talk about the whole blaming your team angle. If I lose in a fighting game, I go, man, I suck, and queue for another match. If I lose in a team-based game,
Let's go.
Shut your bitch ass up, nigga. Bro, I really get on you, nigga. Shut your stupid ass up, nigga. You fucking dumbass fucking bitch, nigga. My baby screamer. Oh my God, give it, baby. It's my baby screamer. Oh my God, what's in your videos? Oh my God, baby, I love you, bitch. Nigga, you sound stupid ass bitch. Don't nobody know you. Don't nobody fuck with you, bro. You on our dick heavy, nigga. We don't know you.
now if we're saying fighting games scare off new players with all the pressures that come with winning or losing, I think it's fair to say your therapist would only define one of these as a hostile environment. But the Conester is right. These games are false equivalents. If only we had a game that was both a fighting game and a team-based game. Ubisoft, you shouldn't have.
For Honor is a fighting game with both team-based and one-on-one modes. What's especially convenient is For Honor tells you how active each mode is. Since day one, Duel has been the least popular mode in the game. I'm pretty sure this text exists solely for Duel. Same exact game, same exact combat, but people are still choosing to have teammates vastly over going it alone. Now maybe it is so that when feces hits the old breeze maker, you can just blame your teammates, but I like to think there's a little bit more going on here. The more popular modes involve more people, sure, but it also involves the more complicated maps with a bigger variety of objectives to accomplish. Having more things to do is fun. Pushing an objective, defusing a bomb, capturing point, farming creeps, inking a stage. All of these matches will eventually boil down to PvP, but there's more going on here than just being locked in a room with a man you now have to beat to death. Fighting games have a lot of depth, but I don't think that depth is handled correctly. For argument's sake, let's say there are 3 layers to depth: Novice, Adept, and Veteran. If most of your depth is shoved into Veteran, yeah, it's gonna feel pretty shallow and boring to new players. Those deeper mechanics do exist in the game, but not at their level. Regardless of how deep a game is overall, if it's not deep given the skill set of the 2 players, then it's not deep in that match. But when other games create an overall main objective to accomplish, it populates those upper layers with basic tasks they can do. Neat little goals to accomplish. In For Honor, there are a lot of veteran players, so why isn't Duel the most popular mode? They can derive a lot of fun out of a basic 1v1. Well, a basic novice mechanic still benefits veterans. When they go to Dominion, yeah, they're all gonna have really high level PvP fights, but capturing the objective still adds another layer, even if it's a basic layer that even a novice player could appreciate. Mechanics in the veteran tier are only going to benefit veteran players, whereas mechanics in the novice tier are gonna benefit everybody. When you add a mechanic, as long as it doesn't render an already existing mechanic obsolete, it's a net win. So what features should be added to fighting games? I don't know. It takes experimenting. But what the heck, if I just had to throw something out there, like me personally, if I just had to sling an idea out, I would say a battle royale mode. Right, that sounds stupid, that sounds ridiculous, but this genre's gotta get a little stupid and ridiculous if it wants to get somewhere. Basically, it's your average tournament mode where the loser is eliminated and the winner moves on, except every fight is 1 round and resources like health and meter carry over into the next fight. It would be a very frantic, very crazy, very nutso psychopath mode. But I think that'd be a fun little diversion from the rank grind. Would it work? Would people actually play the mode? Would someone finally love me? I don't know. But we gotta try stuff. Credit where credit is due. Street Fighter put Ark Survival Evolved's character creator in the game, and Tekken brought back Tekken Ball. So that's good. That's good. Clap it up. Everybody give them a hand. But you know the old adage, 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Children, anyone with a heart condition, or if you're just lactating, go ahead and leave the room because it's about to get nasty. Tekken 8 Arcade Mode is a mode where you pretend to grind Tekken 8. Oh man. Oh. I don't know how this mode exists. This is the definition of a snake eating its own tail. Do the devs get to see their families? Like, do they go home to their wife and children? Or are they locked in a dungeon where they get to play Tekken 8 all day, and when they're hungry, they're fed copies of Tekken 8 and wash it down with liquid forms of Tekken 8? This next part is hard to speak on because it's not just something I can Google. Like, it's actually a matter of what are these people's lives like? Because it's hard to make fighting games, right? You gotta kind of like be in the know. You can't just grab somebody off a completely different genre and tell them to make a fighting game. You gotta be ingrained into it. And so a lot of fighting game devs probably play fighting games quite a bit. And so then when you make fighting games, you end up making a lot of fighting games and assisting with other projects that are also fighting games for a pretty long run. Some of these people have experience with other games, but it's a while back. And again, I can't really say for sure because I don't know what these people do in their day-to-day, but it feels like a bunch of artists that are only consuming one type of thing, and that hurts their art. But when you're locked into that 9-to-5 grind, and your job is to make fighting games, and when you're done with one fighting game, you move on to the next fighting game, and then when you go home, you play fighting games, and then you get in this bubble where only fighting games exist, and all the other games exist outside of that, and they interact with each other, right? This game will look at what that game's doing and try to do that in its format, and they'll kind of exist in the gaming medium, where there's feedback to everything going on, right? But fighting games just seem to exist in that bubble where it's only fighting games, and fighting games are inspired by other fighting games. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of outside interference in this bubble. Tekken 8's arcade mode is a tribute to that. It paints a picture of a person that couldn't fathom, that actually couldn't fathom anything beyond Tekken 8. I can't wrap my head around making a mode where about playing the video game you are currently playing. That's nuts. Maybe if it was like a meta thing, but it's just, hey, you know what's a fun video game? Tekken 8. Let's go play Tekken 8. Even though that's the game you were just playing just now, and now I switch modes to get a little variety, and now there are little me's talking to me about how much fun Tekken 8 is and we should play some. Motherfucker, that's the game I've been playing. What the fuck is this mode? I just think it's weird that the whole industry's first conclusion was, oh, the games are too hard, and then full sent it. There's been no attempt to shake up the genre. They just, nope, the games are too hard. Lock it in. It's up there, Steve. That's weird, bro. That's odd. We aren't gonna try anything else? There are a lot of very difficult games out there, and most of them have been receiving a lot of praise. Obviously, people love all the Dark Souls games. Elden Ring is very beloved, despite being incredibly difficult. Monster Hunter is a game where if your weapon gets dull, you gotta sit down in one spot and sharpen it while T-Rex gives you a concussion. I feel like that's pretty difficult. A lot of horror games that necessitate you dying over and over again, and they are super popular. Getting Over It, huge on Twitch. So if those games are frustrating and people love them to death, and fighting games are frustrating, and I would say people still love them, but fighting game companies think not enough, then what's the difference? What's the key difference here? Well, these games seem to encourage a lot of social interactions, which is weird because fighting games are inherently social games too, but maybe the social interaction part of it isn't pushed enough. And again, we're in a time where we need to experiment. We need to throw out ideas and just see how they go. And so I don't want to judge fighting games when they try new things right now, because that's them doing the work. Even if that specific idea doesn't pan out, that's them helping the entire genre push forward by falling so they can learn to pick themselves back up. So what I'm gonna say is one of those ideas, and it's a little controversial, and most of you probably will disagree with this, and that's fine. But we're trying stuff right now, okay? So here I go. I think all fighting games should have the Mortal Kombat mic. I want to hear the other guy cuss me out while we're fighting. If I'm getting my ass beat, I want the other guy to talk mess to me while I'm getting my ass beat. That is pretty, I don't know if people are gonna like that, but I think it's fun. I think it makes the game more of a social thing, which is what all these other games kind of got going on. Although I will say, Dragon Ball FighterZ doing the whole 3 players versus a raid boss, genius. That's the kind of experimentation we need, and I pray that the genre hangs on to that. Fighting game bosses are already legendary for being stupid hard, so it makes sense to make a bunch of players work together to try and beat one. Some platform fighters are actually leaning into roguelikes a little more. Nasby 2 did that, and now Combo Devils is getting ready to do that. And so I think that's interesting. There's been mumblings also, I think, about Rivals of Ether 2 doing it. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's cool to see fighting games lean into a more cooperative mode. Of course, it's easier for platform fighters because that lends itself to like a level. 2D fighters where the camera's tighter on the character, kind of difficult to do that. But it's the spirit of the whole thing that I think is great. I don't actually think Combo Devils is gonna come out and the roguelike mode is gonna be so amazing that fighting games change forever. I'm just saying that the idea that they would attempt to do that, that's what I want fighting games to replicate. 2D fighting games can still look at the effort being made there and say we should do something like that in our game. I think we should try a lot of things before we just try and crank down the difficulty on a game. And really, I've said this before, you aren't. You're making it harder for new players to get into your game. There's gonna be this moment in time where new players are trying to learn the game, and that learning period is when they're vulnerable and they lose to everyone, including people that are worse than them, which is a new thing. Used to, even if you were learning the game, okay, you can still beat people that you're better than, but now people that are worse than the guy that's just learning are using auto combos or modern controls. They're gonna whoop that guy's ass because he's trying to learn. Me personally, I think it's sloppy game design. Regardless of, oh, well, I don't like auto combos because now I'm gonna lose online to people using auto combos, so auto combos just make you bad. Oh, well, if you lose to auto combos, you are bad. No, people who use auto combos suck. No, you suck for losing to auto combos. Guys, it's not about if you're bad or not, it's if the mechanic is cohesive with the rest of the game and works. Stop the penis measuring contest. This is about game design. In reality, I'm just a moron that would like fighting games to stop treating me like a moron. Maybe that's an unreasonable request, but I don't know. I feel like we can try a couple more things first. King of the Hill mode, something like that. Put a little area that you have to stay in Tekken. That could work. Because of the 3D environment, that'd be really good. Although it'd work in other fighting games too. Like the center of the stage, you just have to stay there. And the other guy can knock you out and then he can stay in there and his points go up. It certainly changes the dynamic of a fight. And now you aren't going for like the wall splatter stuff. You aren't trying to get your opponent in the corner and do those combos because then you're not in the center. It creates a slightly different dynamic and it's a cool switch up. Is that one mode the key to 36 million sales? No, but we gotta try stuff. The guy that did have 36 million sales tried a lot of stuff. The latest one does have a bunch of modes. It's not a matter of difficulty, it's a matter of fun and making fun accessible. And if you have to make winning accessible to make fun accessible, then your game sucks. And I know these games don't suck. I know these games are fun. So you don't need to do that. I gotta get these endings better. These are not good endings. Because I keep ranting at the end and then I don't have like a closing joke. Bazinga.